Alright. Ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls, welcome your faces back to another video here. We're going to be watching Above Majestic. If you guys want to join the stream, link will be in the description. If you guys haven't seen this movie, I'll have the full link on the in the description. But this is probably my favorite movie when it comes to deep diving in every single aspect of questioning things and kind of what the world has to offer outside of a basic perspective. So when you're watching this, guys, you definitely have to be in a open mindset. You know what I mean? You can't you got to go into it with a with an open mind, and don't be so stuck on what you're told and what the normalized truths are, and do your own research. And this is kind of what this video did in certain aspects, and kind of sheds light on certain things. So let's go ahead and just start off here. It's called Above Majestic. Like I said, you can watch the full thing in the description. I'm gonna just sum it up in about 30 minutes. Skip to some of my favorite parts into here. So that's a submarine, if you guys didn't know. And there's first thing I think they cover is the space program, the secret space program. I do believe. Let's go ahead and see here. So I'm just gonna skip around here. This was pretty big right here.
Right during the same time that all of these nuclear missiles were literally melted down inside the warhead, we also have this amazing formation appear on a dry lake bed in Oregon.
The Idaho National Guard has a huge mystery on its hands, and that is our top story today. During routine photo reconnaissance missions over Oregon, RF-4 jets spotted and took photographs of a huge carving in the desert over 1,000 feet across.
It has everybody talking.
Like what?
This is just something.
What could that have been?
It chills you. How would somebody do this? It's incredibly time-consuming.
I think a ship landed.
A lot of expertise involved.
And made that shit.
Time, and maybe a lot of money.
But I mean,
from point to point is exactly
what do you guys think?
11.5 degrees. Exactly. And the outer ones, they're exactly 23 degrees apart. Exactly.
No variation.
No variation.
And there's something else puzzling here, something that you do not see. You do not see tire tracks, the kind of tracks that might be made by a tractor or a plow. No tire tracks, and no footprints.
See?
In Oregon, I'm Walden Kirsch for NBC.
Very interesting. Like, look at that. Did you guys see that?
This is the same type of thing that's being done with crop circle formations, but on an even more impressive scale. And that mark was a symbolic statement from the ETs. The mandala, remember, is supposed to be a symbol of the cosmic mind, a symbol of the creator, the origin of the universe, the geometric. Somebody
landed their ship. And look at this, dude. That's insane. Like, no way.
In Oregon, I'm Walden Kirsch.
Look at how massive this is, dude. Now, this is made out of pure gravel. So that alone is something to take in. But, dude, like, look at this entire thing. Like, there's no, I think something, the bottom of something landed here. And made that, dude.
The reality is that this is the same type of thing that's being done with crop circle formations, but on an even more impressive scale. And that mark was a symbolic statement from the...
So this is another pretty interesting part right here.
He threatened to invade the Laos, German origin.
One of the ways that the
So pretty much what they're about to say is, we'll just let them talk. Fuck it.
Nazis obtained their advanced technology before World War II was through the use of a channeler called Maria Orsic. Maria Orsic was channeling telepathic messages from extraterrestrials that were offering her plans and schematics to actually create anti-gravity craft. Maria Orsic channeled this information for the Occult Vril Society in Germany. This information was later used by these German secret societies to build out many of their crafts. because they were focused more on the qualitative superiority rather than the quantitative. They were more focused on having more advanced technology rather than more tanks and boots on the ground. They were losing the ground war in Europe, but they were obtaining the more advanced technology. And to save that technology, they took it down to Antarctica pre and during
Like, I'm
World
still
War II.
definitely
In the late 1930s,
skeptical
the
on that,
Nazis
but I did some
had an
research, man,
expeditionary,
and you know, it seems like some of this stuff is coming to light now, with everything, you know, with all this tiny little shit. More information's coming out. The UFO hearing just dropped. I got a link in the description for my second channel where I upload all the videos that don't make it onto the main one. But this one just has to. I had to drop this one.
group go down to Antarctica.
So yeah, I was saying Antarctica, dude. They this isn't something that I thought, like, you know, I really believed in too much, but seeing more people kind of shed light on it is it's very interesting.
And they found some very interesting things. They found a region under the ice that was created by geothermal heat from volcanoes. And there would be 3 miles of ice and a few thousand feet above ground level.
So what he's saying is there's submarine bases
Perfect areas to build submarine bases.
somewhere
so not
in
only did the
Antarctica.
Nazis build out
Personally responsible for getting information from 23 different American spies who were embedded in the German secret space program, which apparently included bases in Antarctica.
A single Navy operative,
So I like this guy's story. but
lieutenant commander, they've all
Skip to the
been
end.
through Annapolis to learn how
because they talk about something that intrigued me. Like I said, it's kind of like the Antarctica thing, where the reptilians, they mentioned briefly.
which is initiated by the Draco reptilians as far back as 6,000 years ago.
the reptilians really came into control and started to be able to manipulate what was going on the face of the planet.
Like,
About
look at that fucking thing, dude. That is scary as fuck. And they say that is supposed to be able to morph into a human somehow, or kind of like produce a skin that makes you look like a human. I'm not too sure how it works. I haven't done enough research on this, but it is something that, like I said, it has been kind of shed to light a little bit recently.
6,000 to 7,000 years ago.
And they're saying these things were here for fucking thousands and thousands of years.
Going on the face, and started to be able to manipulate what
And I guess their main goal is not good. You know, it's not good for normal humans.
was going on the face of the planet about 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. It is true that they have different masking technologies to be able to be in a room and look like a human, but usually they're in underground bases in various places on the globe, as well as in a huge area in Antarctica. The southeast region
This is kind
has
of
a large number of underground caverns that are kept extremely warm, too warm for humans, by geothermal heat. It's a perfect place for all of these colonies that the reptilians have. They're basically cities, huge cities with millions of them.
So,
that was like a bombshell to drop onto just a lot of regular folks. So that was still kind of you know, skeptical to me. A layer in Antarctica, but like looking at it, it makes sense, you know. Like, by geothermal heat, and it's in Antarctica. Nobody fucking can go to Antarctica. Like, you can, but you can't just like free roam around in Antarctica and look for stuff, you know what I mean? You gotta kind of travel to a certain area and work out of there. So I mean, that'd really be like the only possibility with them like locating in Antarctica. And I mean, it'd be perfect because it's inhabitable by humans. Like, why would we even want to go there? You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing out there. It's a wasteland. It'd be a perfect, you know, spot to set up shop for them. So this guy goes on detail to go and talk about how the Russians obtained all this crazy shit from these extraterrestrials before World War II, like, or during World War II, and a spy came in and infiltrated Germany, came back out with some documents and shit, and then this guy is pretty much explaining that.
German or any other language.
And he's saying, here, I'll skip.
It brings back. Some of it is photographs. Once in a while, it's a manual. Hardly any manual. A couple of manuals were not even in English, German, or any other language. They were extraterrestrial hieroglyphics. You see all of this stuff.
That is very...
You hear it. You understand what the Germans are doing.
Like, imagine seeing that.
They didn't just get documents from the extraterrestrials. They got brand spanking new space vehicles. Here's one. Here's another one. Here's. They brought these. They take you inside. They show you how to drive it. So they put me in a secret laboratory, which is designing not flying wings like Northrop does, okay? These are just a fuselage with no wings and no tail. Half airplane,
Those
half
are the tic-tac.
spaceships. This is what
Tic-tac
Northrop was
UFOs.
designing. Our first spaceships.
Now this was huge, guys. This next part right here, man, is absolutely massive. This is like a probably the biggest bombshell that they'll drop through this whole movie. So buckle up tight. And shit, I mean, like I said, try to look at it with an open mind. I did, and it's fucking insane what they did, or what they supposedly did 60, 70 years ago, dude. It's fucking 80 years ago. Wild. Listen to this shit, though.
This is what Northrop was designing. Our first spaceships are U.S. Navy attack class submarines. We put together programs that went all the way out into the galaxy, not just this galaxy.
The military-industrial complex, back when they were testing a lot of the technology that
And you
they
got
had
this guy to
received
back it all up.
from the Nazis
It's crazy.
after World War II, as well as from ETs. When they were doing proof of concept testing, they had attached this technology to a regular submarine, and then they flew it out of our atmosphere. That was the first time that they were really able to fly a vessel out of our atmosphere using electrogravitic technology. The reason that they used a submarine was, of course, because they were self-enclosed. The crews that served on them were used to serving 6 months or more away from home, having all of their supplies with them. And they had the psychology of being able to handle those tight quarters for such a long time. The technology developed to a point to where they developed the finances, this financial schemes, to begin to build out fleets of these long cigar-shaped craft. Some of them were kilometer long or longer, and they could make them longer by putting in sections. And the sections were modular, just like in modern submarines. They could take apart the fuselage and pull out sections. It could, one of these modules,
I mean, it makes sense to an extent, you know?
Set for like 3 or 4 months as a laboratory for a bunch of different
Because they could swap them out, like this guy says.
scientific programs. And then at its next time at port, the modules are swapped out, and then it's a hospital ship. The modules swapped out the next time, and it's a troop transport, or it's just a long-haul freighter. So these ships are very modular, and in the beginning, they were using power systems that were nuclear. Then they moved to thorium type of electrical generation, and then they moved to some sort of zero-point electrical generation. And that is what they currently use.
This is totally unreal that this happened
Literally,
like in
that's so-
1942 on this planet. Extraterrestrial come from who knows where out in the galaxy. Germany gets to be the country that these Draco reptilians pick out to do two types of missions. One, to remove all of the people that Hitler didn't want in his country, and every one of them around the planet. Two, to take every man, woman, and child on this planet and put them in slave factories, men, women, and children, to build and construct all these different types of Draco Navy space battle group ships. This may sound like...
Do you know how insane people would go? Like, knowing this information even existed back in, like, the 50s. Like, if somebody told you some shit that they saw in the military, and, like, you know what I mean? Like, what the that would be the most crippling fucking... And then, back then, like, dude, if you talked about that shit at all, you were fucking immediately casted away. Like, to the darkest depths of fucking society. You were basically homeless. If you believed in aliens, you had the same social level as like a dude that was homeless as fuck, and that is extremely unfortunate. I'm glad people like this old dude can merch on certain encounters and stuff, dude. At least we got some sort of, you know, like I said, I think this is the first step for a lot of shit.
Insanity. This is what happened.
Even if it does sound fucking like crazy, bro. And this dude even said, like, it sounds like insanity. This happened. I don't know what a 90-year-old old dude has to lose. You know what I mean? Like, or has to gain even from coming on and saying some shit. Probably got more to lose than to gain. You know what I mean? In a situation like this, which is why I kind of praise people like that. But this next part is pretty legit
like
too.
Insanity. This is what happened.
See?
He had concluded from what these insiders were telling him that the Germans had actually made treaties with a highly aggressive and highly negative reptilian humanoid race that they've called the Saurians or the Draco. This treaty involved
the lizard
the
people.
Nazis actually being given workable technology that is built with our own conventional systems. They use a sort of mercury turbine, a type of mercury called red mercury. And then they are actually able to leave the Earth. They had a settlement on the moon. They had a settlement on Mars.
This is very
And they were
interesting.
doing this stuff as early as 1939, even before World War II actually started. As you can imagine, everybody was thinking...
This is
heard
pretty
over
cool.
successive the Nazi installations that they had built pre and during World War II. The DC flyover was an event that occurred over successive weekends in July of 1952 in Washington,
That's
DC.
fucking crazy, dude.
And what had happened was that there was a mass sighting right over the Capitol building in Washington, DC. There was many lights in the sky. Now, many people believe that this was a UFO or an extraterrestrial incident, but in fact it was not. It was German saucers, German craft that were flying over the Capitol building and essentially forcing the hand of the Americans to accept many of these Nazi scientists into their control structures. When many of these Nazi scientists came into America after World War II in Operation
So this was pretty much, they did that flyover at the end of World War II. If we can go back to it here. They did this flyover in World War II at the end of it. The Germans did. And this kind of, like this dude said, it forced them to
flying over the Capitol building
to let them in.
Nazi scientists after World War II in Operation Paperclip. They infiltrated into basically every power structure in the United States, government, media, medical systems, basically everything. After World War II, James Forrestal went to Germany to tour many of the research facilities that the Germans had over in Europe, and John F. Kennedy actually accompanied him on those tours. Some believe that Kennedy was actually given information by Forrestal about secret space programs and the UFO phenomenon. And near the end of James Forrestal's career, he was also embroiled in many policy struggles within the United States government. He wanted to disclose the UFO phenomenon and the technologies associated with it. It was said that he committed suicide by jumping out of a high-rise hospital that he was staying in at the time of his death. But of course, many people are also believing that he was actually pushed out of the window and in fact assassinated to prevent him from working to disclose these technologies in UFO projects.
They had a really trouble.
Go with that. I'll go with that second one. Seems like it's more. This is pretty interesting too. Obviously not this.
To the very limits of official censorship and concealment.
Talk about secret societies
that
here.
I do not.
Secret society.
They got one of Bush.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go wild.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322.
I,
Were you in the same secret society? That's all right. Let me answer his question. Excuse me, what are you rapping? Whoa. Is anybody watching this?
Yale University is 300 years old this year, and were you to visit its campus, you would see that it still has exotic clubhouses, which look like tombs where Yale's legendary secret societies meet.
The videotape provides a grainy glimpse into what appear to be the initiation rituals of a secret society that's been around since 1832, whose members have gone on to be leaders of Wall Street and the White House, the Senate and the Supreme Court. What they captured, they say, was initiates, known as neophytes, being forced to kiss a skull,
Some
then
crazy
members
footage,
performing
dude.
a mock killing. Still, Rosenbaum says the tape is a valuable artifact, an extremely rare view into the secret society that groomed the American ruling class for generations. Dan Harris, ABC News, New York.
That was on the fucking news too. That's
We
wild.
see the remains of humans with who is bringing out new examples of elongated skulls, and they are being genetically tested, they're being analyzed, and they have clear physiological differences from the skulls that the rest of us have. These people have very large brains. Discover magazine in the year 2009 came out with an article called "What Happened to the Hominid?"
Some of the, I guess, very well-known elites, names I won't mention, but
We'll talk about the
are on
1%ers here.
front lobes of most watching this video, are highly involved not only in some of the slave trade aspects, but are also involved in dealing with non-terrestrials and dealing with organized crime down here on Earth and how it's related to these programs.
I will tell you, Director Deutsch, as a former Los Angeles police narcotics detective, that the agency has dealt drugs throughout this country for a long time.
There you go.
Director Deutsch, I will refer you to 3 specific agency operations known as Amadeus, Pegasus, and Watchtower. I have Watchtower documents heavily redacted by the agency. I was personally exposed to CIA operations and recruited by CIA personnel who attempted to recruit me in the late 70s to become involved in protecting agency drug operations in this country. For the record, my name is Mike Rupert, R-U-P-P-E-R-T. I did bring this information out 18 years ago, and I got shot at and forced out of LAPD because of it. I've been on the record for 18 years nonstop, and I'll be happy to give you, Congressman, anything that I have.
A lot of these elite are running a lot of financial,
just exposed the
scams,
fucking
drug,
entire
programs
system.
to raise
That was
money
big.
for these secret programs that they have going on, and they take full advantage of this access.
They probably don't age anymore. You know, a 1%er, you don't know who they are. You don't even know what they look like. You don't even know their name. They could go down and be at a 7-Eleven, you wouldn't even know it. So they could not age and you wouldn't know it. Never get sick. offspring would be born. They'd be super smart, super strong. Just quality of life improved in every direction. And I'm sure the 1%ers are enjoying that, while the rest of us are dying with diseases and malformities and stuff. They're walking around, you know, body beautiful. So that's just the medical area. Then, and think about the other things, transportation, the vehicles they travel around, home, security, all that stuff. Just, you know, it'd be like somebody in modern suburbia looking at a man in a cave. We're the men in the cave.
What very often occurs is that
that was one of my favorite parts in this documentary as well. That dude talking about the 1%ers, and it's like, dude, that is you can't explain it better than that, bro. You'll never know. You'll never fucking, you know, I mean, random people you meet every day, especially like if you're working a job where it's retail or something, like, dude, or even if you're just out a lot doing shit, talking to random people, like, dude, you'll never know. That's so crazy.
An elite will get to a very old, ripe age, or they will die, or they will die in some sort of an accident publicly. Privately, they are taken, and depending on their level, they are either age regressed or they have their consciousness basically downloaded into a clone that is an exact duplicate of them. They then disappear from the public eye forever and go into these programs or go into retirement. This is something that pops up a lot in the programs, and everyone that is served deeply knows that the elite have access.
Very interesting. That age regression shit, or even faking your death, you know, because he just explains it here and how it works, and even just being able to hear somebody break it down is, you know, it's kind of just a little bit more icing on the cake there.
Really die.
What the deep state or the cabal or the New World Order is a small group of very powerful but very psychopathic individuals that have acquired a lot of money, a lot of technology, and a lot of information over the course of centuries.
Definitely your politicians. The older ones. One that are chair people, that command the power. 1%ers. Chairman of the boards. Those people, that's they. That's ones we never know their names, don't know their faces, and they control all the power.
The more you get involved in these societies, the deeper and deeper you go.
He goes on to say, here, I'll just let him say.
Compromised you become. You start to learn more and more of the secret teachings. You have to work really hard for the knowledge. It can take years of time. You keep accessing higher and higher levels of rank, and they keep dropping these little seeds in as you go on. Seeds that start to blossom in your mind and make you think differently. Ultimately, if you go far enough down this road, you will be invited to participate in things like and human sacrifice. And if you don't do it, it's the offer you can't refuse. They may actually even kill you. Once you partake in these activities, whether you like them or not, they now have leverage they can use against you. If you ever dare to speak out against this group, they have photographs, they have films, they have the footage that can absolutely ruin your life.
Deze mensen, de meeste daarvan,
This guy's story is
hadden een Luciferiaans geloof. En dan kan iedereen zeggen, ja, geloof bestaat niet, en God bestaat niet, alles bestaat.
His whole story, I'll go on. But it gets very emotional, and they talk about, yeah.
The reason that these elite dark occult societies sacrifice and traffic children, first and foremost, is the energy associated with it. So when a human is in the state of fear and trauma, they release a energy, and this energy can be picked up by essentially negative extraterrestrial beings, negative archonic influences, and they feed off of it. They literally feed off the energetic release of fear and trauma. When these dark groups use children, because a child is not mentally programmed yet as an adult is, they are much more innocent. They're much more connected into their higher selves, or into their divine, if you will. The trauma that they release is much more potent than using adults. During these ritualistic practices that the elite participate in, one of the compounds that is released in the children's body during torture, during trauma, is a compound called adrenochrome. It's released out of the adrenal gland during highly traumatized incidents, and this adrenochrome acts as essentially a drug. These secret societies that make up the deep state are nothing new. This actually spans back thousands and thousands of years, and they have always occulted this information for themselves. We need to understand what occulted actually means. Occulted just simply means hidden in Latin. It doesn't necessarily mean good or bad, it just means hidden.
So I'm gonna go to another part.
He had an intuitive empath ability.
Where they talk about the secret
all the MyLab programs were the chemical cocktails they would use on us. They would use them to enhance us in many different ways. Some of the ways that we would be enhanced would be if they discovered we had an intuitive empath ability. There was a cocktail that they would give us that would enhance it, make it many-fold stronger. They would also give cocktails to people that would, they would have hormones in them that would make them stronger, faster, and think quicker. Major part of the program was that when you started, they were not quite sure where they would send you. A lot of the kids that were in these programs, they would end up in different syndicates here on the Earth working for the Cabal, and a small percentage, very small, would end up going into the secret space program.
Certain children were picked who had certain DNA.
You could tell they just fucking fried this dude's brain, but he was, you could tell like he was part of it, part of something. He just doesn't explain it all too well. I'll let you guys listen, I guess.
Wow.
Max Spears.
I was connected with that. And what they did was, when we were like 5 and 6 years old, they took us there and they trained us, and we did, we learned and we trained and we did all sorts of operations when we were there. Now, when I was 5 years old, my parents moved to Los Angeles at the time, out of the blue, and I was living on Sepulveda Boulevard, and the Mars jump rooms for children were on at 999 Sepulveda Boulevard. I now know. So and I didn't know. So I had these memories before I knew that this particular information about these Mars jump rooms on Sepulveda Boulevard.
All over the place.
It was a lot of training. So say from 5 years old to 25 years old was spent there, and I know some of the people now who are back here. But what they did then at the end of the Mars, at the end of that thing, is they used age regression technology, brought us back to 5 years old, and then placed us exactly back to where we were.
So that alone, I know, is like kind of a gerbil-ish shit to take in, but what you could tell that he's not all there because he was 5, went into this program at 5 years old. From 5 to 25, he did all his shit, and then they age regressed him back to 5 years old, dude. And you could tell, like, when he grew up, that's growing up twice. You know what I mean? That's very... I don't know how you would even do that. I think they would probably have to kill him and then put a new thing, unless you get in the machine or something and fucking... Because you would literally have to shrink your body back to a 5-year-old. So, a very interesting story. I did a little research on him. But, yeah, it sounds like it happened. and it fucked him up because it happened. You know what I mean?
The reason so few went into the secret space program
He's
was that,
gonna talk about why there's not a lot of people in there.
that most of the participants, almost all of the participants, are pulled from various military branches. They bring people in to the military, send them through training, testing, find out where their skills lean, and if they have the fortitude for this type of mission, and then they're invited in or drafted in, and they'll serve a 20-year term. And this is referred to as a 20 and back.
20 and
after
back.
that 20 years, they're actually age regressed and regressed back in time using the technology that was handed to us by non-terrestrials. And then they were buttoned up in time and placed back in their life. And then they finish out the rest of their military term and then return to civilian life, having no memory of serving in the secret space program.
That sucks. They lose all their memory too, though, dude. Like, at least let them save the memory, you know. But you couldn't do that to a 5-year-old. But if you go in at like 20, and you go to 40, and go back to 20, like, let them keep that information, dude. That'd be fucking cool to know, right? Like, even if you're gonna you can't really talk about it to anybody, and even if you did, they wouldn't believe you. But I mean, I don't see how that would really hurt.
Regressing people back in time after serving in the 20 and back and wiping their memory has to do with a deal that was made with an extraterrestrial group that gave us that technology. There's a Nordic group that are engaged in a time and space battle with a reptilian group. This battle's gone on for many thousands of years.
When delving into this research, some people formulate ideas that there's only good extraterrestrials here or there's only bad extraterrestrials here. But we need to understand that the law of polarity is universal. There's both good or benevolent extraterrestrials here to help us, and there's negative extraterrestrials here to essentially feed off of us and traumatize us into a state of fear. These negative extraterrestrial species involve some gray species. They also involve many reptilian species and many non-physical archonic entities that can also remotely influence and utilize much of that fear energy and traumatized energy that we release.
Towards the end of my training, it started to become pretty clear that...
So, this guy did a 20 and back, and I guess he got to keep his memory.
A bunch of papers that were non-disclosures, were just a big stack of papers signing my life away when I wasn't even 17 years old yet. The Lunar Operations Command...
So he said he signed his life away at 17 or 16. He wasn't 18 yet. And the reason they did that legally, they did that on the moon, is what he's saying. And then this is the Lunar Operations Command. That is what the moon base is referred to as, the Lunar Operations Command. And it was originally constructed by the Germans, which is why it kind of looks like a swastika. The base, you can kind of tell that it looks definitely like a fucking, like their World War II logo, the Nazi logo. And that is because originally it was made by the Germans, is what this guy's saying. And he's going to explain how he gets to this location on the moon from Earth, which is by far probably the most fascinating thing in here.
Is a moon base, and it was built out originally by the Germans in the late 1930s, early 1940s. While they were building this complex, they had utilized an ancient and integrated the Nazis into the military-industrial complex. The LOC was handed over to the Americans. When approaching the moon from Earth,
check this shit out.
In an electrogravitic craft, you will find the moon will be at a distance, and then it will grow very quickly in front of you. And then the next thing you know, you are above the surface. You will then fly in the electrogravitic craft at breakneck speeds, except you don't feel inertia. You find yourself hugging maybe 90 feet 300 feet above the lunar surface, going at incredible speeds until you reach a crater. And then you find yourself orbiting a crater. The person piloting the craft radios in requesting permission to land. You don't see anywhere to land. All of a sudden, a little haze kind of occurs, and then there's a base. It's the Lunar Operation Command. And as you fly down and over, there is a control tower where they control the air traffic. As you fly around this base to make your final approach, you see a secondary crater. And as you fly down into that crater, it's fairly deep, and you end up popping out into a lava tube section where you immediately see a giant building built into the middle of that lava tube that blocks it. And it's built kind of like the shape of a bell. And it looks like the outside of a battleship almost, the way it's built.
So ultimately, that's pretty much it.
You then fly in and land in the bay, and you're now at the Lunar Operation Command.
Well, very interesting. This guy, I like what he has to say as well, but that whole, even like just flying there and how to get there, that was very detailed. You know what I mean? That was very in-depth. So, and I like the 3D fucking graphics they did, dude. That was awesome. And I think probably the best representation of what he was talking about.
Some of the testimony that's come to me over the last year in particular has been nothing short of startling in terms of the degree to which the space program, the secret space program, has expanded. I've talked to people who have said that there is and has been an ongoing extrasolar planetary colonization program that's been going on for decades and decades. I mean, to the point where one of the people who had actually gone, and this was the claim that he made, that he was on a warp-capable spacecraft that went from here to the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy in 20 minutes, and that when they got there, they've located at least 8 Earth-like planets in some of the star systems along the edge of the galaxy, and 8 of those planets had human life on them. They were Earth-sized planets with sun-like stars similar to our sun, at approximately the same distances. They wound up using some kind of radio telemetry sensors to determine which ones were broadcasting in conventional radio and television signals. They found 2 planets like that, 2 of which were speaking English. And the minute I heard this, I thought, well, this is complete baloney, or this system, this whole program has been going on for a lot longer than anybody would have dreamed. But he described seeing cities and roads and cars and people and conventional clothing speaking English. And there's only one way that that's possible, I mean, other than, parallel universe type of a scenario, and that is that the program's been going on for much, much longer.
Right after about the 6-year mark in
crazy.
My 20 and back experience, I found out some very disturbing details.
So he goes into depth about
the
galactic slave trade, in which you can check his story out. Like I said, the whole link for this video is in the description.
With it or not, everyone has had to deal with the concept of the secret space program.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
On September 10th, 2001, the day before 9/11, then Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld testified in front of congressmen about $2.3 trillion missing from the Pentagon. In 2015, an Inspector General report came out detailing that number grew from $2.3 trillion to $6.5 trillion missing from the Pentagon. This money is going into unacknowledged projects both above our heads and below ground, into deep underground military bases and secret space programs with technology far beyond what many of us could even realize.
That's what I thought.
Our budget, for instance, garners
so much
$1.023 trillion
with us.
every 2 years.
There's no need.
It's over $500 billion a year.
So
right now, there are
I think that was pretty much the last
active
real entertaining thing I've
military
seen on here.
bases in the United States.
If you guys want to go ahead and check it out, link will be in the description. Let me know if you guys want more of these live stream videos. Otherwise, I'm just going to drop them on my other channel. I'll have that link in the description as well. I think the cooler shit will go on to here, though, and for the time being, at least I'll have something on the channel, even if it's not the best quality. At least it's something. It's good talking to you guys. You guys got anything you want to talk about? Message me on Instagram or follow me on Twitter, or just comment. Chop it up with you guys. I think that was pretty much the last thing in this video, though. So yeah, I'm out of here, man. Link in the description for the full movie, Above Majestic. Check it out if you guys got time. Yeah, and I'll see you guys in another video shortly. Y'all have a great rest of your day, night, evening. I'm out of here, guys. Adios.